We're here on another episode of the Growth League podcast. I'm with my guest, Tanya Coburn. She's the VP of Marketing and Communications at Trufla, a B2B, Canadian-based B2B insuretech SaaS company. Tanya, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Caleb. I'm really happy to be here.
Let's get started here. What's your mandate? What's the marketing functions mandate at Trufla today? How do you understand your accountability? And at the end of the day, you know you've done a good job if fill in the blank.
I mean, honestly, if you're looking at pure metrics, if I bring in a target amount of demos, I mean, that is my main function is to get demos into sales.
Okay,
That is how I know at the end of the day, everything I worked on, no matter the theory, the philosophy, the channels, if I'm bringing in the right amount of demos for my sales team to meet their sales targets and to grow the business, then I'm very happy.
excellent. Thanks for that context and help us understand this. Why, as a marketing leader with a lot of experience like yourself, why TrueFlow? What made it home for you? Is it the leadership? Was it the industry? Was it the? Tell me about why you plant your flag there today.
That's a great question. I believe that the people you work for is a driving force, the culture. And so I've worked with the founder and CEO for a long time for his other startups, even on the insurance side. We've kind of done it together for the past, 12 years now. And I honestly, it's the leadership group, it's the people I get to work with and the culture that keeps me going.
That's awesome. It's you're right. The people you work with at the end of the day, these careers that we have are short, and if we're filling them with people that we don't want to be around, then it makes it less enjoyable than it can be, right? So that's awesome. So for those that don't understand the B2B insurtech SaaS world, give us a bit of a rundown about who's TrueFlow, what problems do you solve, and for who specifically?
For sure. So Truthfully is a B2B insurtech SaaS company. So basically what we do is we provide software for specifically insurance brokers in Canada and the US. And we're trying to solve some major issues that we know firsthand because I was an insurance broker, the founder and CEO owned an insurance broker. The technology is a good 20 to 30 years behind fintech. So it's kind of crazy. Nothing's changed in the last 20 to 30 years, which means, the systems aren't set up for digital marketing. So you can't even pull proper email marketing lists from your broker management system. You don't have visibility on your data, which as a marketer is insane that you can't really see your customer data or understand your customer data. The automation factor. So the big buzzword is AI and automation and reduce workload. That's really difficult in the insurance world because it is very thick with information, private information, but also a lot of the underwriting is very specific. So building kind of a resource that helps take the day-to-day tasks out of the broker channel so that they can focus on what they're there to do, which is to really help people at the end of the day. That is the value they provide.
And for your target market, do they have lots of options as it relates to what Trufla offers, or is it? Tell me about the space from a competitive standpoint.
Yes. So when we originally went to market, there was really no one in our space. And we originally launched actually way back in 2014 with a self-service mobile app and we were still like just the insurance side. And no one was doing, not even the big insurers like Intact, they didn't have that. And so we started selling that to brokers as a feature to kind of bring down call loads into their offices. So a lot of what I had to do was education. Then we brought in other things like SEO and websites. And this is at a time, Caleb, I would say like 2016, 2017, where brokerages weren't really looking at their SEO. They weren't investing in it. They didn't think it was important. Their main channels was either walk-in or referral marketing. Like they weren't using their digital channels. So again, it was a lot of education, why we have to shift to digital channels. And then in 2018, we actually officially launched TrueFlow as an insurtech. We combined the TrueUp SEO service aspect with the kind of more tech mobile app and kind of combined it and launched TrueFlow. And then now our products have expanded so much that we actually look at the 360 customer journey. So we provide obviously SEO web, we do lead management and CRM, we do policy management, and then the data piece to understand what's going on and to make informed decisions, and then the customer self-service. So we actually provide the entire customer loop now with our tech
Cool.
stack.
Cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, Today, not including sort of uh, political or socioeconomic factors or macro industry factors, but within your function, within your marketing function, what do you feel is your biggest number one challenge today in terms of fulfilling your mandate, hitting the accountability about demos? Like, how do you see that? What's the biggest blockage to success?
I think the biggest block, and I think this is not just our industry, is the sales funnels getting longer.
Mhm.
So the kind of like interest to the deal stage where you sell the product or service, it's becoming longer. And I know that Google came out with the messy middle, and this is kind of like what's coming up. It's taking longer for people to make a decision, and it's also a multi-channel decision. So you don't always know, you can't always attribute
Right.
where people are coming from. So my biggest challenge is content. A lot of what I have to do is providing really good quality content that resonates with our different segments and products that we're trying to sell and kind of hit them with that content depending on where they are in the journey. But that journey is no longer linear like it used to be.
Yeah.
So you're not going from, oh, gated content from an ebook I downloaded, here's so like a nice email drip. Oh, I'm going to book a demo. It doesn't look like that anymore. It's a bit more complex. So trying to shorten that sales funnel a little bit. So we're not looking at 100 to 120 days in the sales funnel. And I'm working really hard to try to shorten it to about a 60-day cycle,
Right.
doing that with like lead scoring, working really closely with the sales team through social engagement and kind of going back to, and this is something I'm going to be very passionate about in this conversation,
Yeah.
relying less on AI to write our content and trying to actually connect again emotionally to our target demographics on a human level.
Yeah, I'd like to touch on that in a few minutes here. Before we do that, I think you, like a lot of folks in our audience, you have to tackle these challenges with an extremely lean team of resources. In your case, you're doing everything. So how do you play the game of marketing excellence, marketing leadership in this scenario in which it's lean, very lean?
Yes. So I've had a great team in the past where I've had graphic designers, someone running my social media and email marketing, someone writing content just for me, but we've had to really lean down our resources to focus on implementing a lot of the sales that are coming in. So whenever you're working in B2B SaaS, you have to balance your sales with implementation. Sales rocked it. Now we have to build up our implementation to get all of our services launched, our products launched. So it's just me right now. And the biggest challenge I have, and something I really have to learn to do, and this is really hard as a people pleaser, is to say no. I'm learning how to say no to anything that's coming from all levels of requests that they think should be happening in marketing that doesn't fit the marketing strategy that I know isn't going to give us an ROI and is just a waste of time. So being hyper focused on the mission at hand. And also I'm a huge proponent for AI. I freaking love AI. It's the only reason why I can run a one person marketing team, but I no longer do it to write my content. I do it for strategy, for research. I plug in an insane amount of data and ask it to analyze it for me and give me advice. I've trained it on behavioral sciences and all my favorite research articles, my favorite behavioral scientists and their theories, and ask it to give me advice on A/B testing. So that is how I'm using AI now to help be more strategic and more focused in what we're trying to do, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
totally. I love it. Back to your point about, an area that you're looking to improve, and you're already probably making a lot of traction here around saying no. So what are some takeaways you might be able to offer in terms of, still being a productive and positive team member and welcoming ideas and opinions, but also, establishing some order of control? Like, how do you say no without being a pain?
Yeah. I mean, this took me a while to learn. Again, I'm a recovering people pleaser, but I think the
I'm a
best thing
recovering asshole, so
then we could chat. We could work
yeah,
together on this. I think, for the most part, Caleb, I think people on your team or your leadership group, they want to be heard. Their ideas just want to be voiced
yeah,
and really listen to what they're trying to say and ask why. Like, why do you want this and what do you want to accomplish? And get them to answer that. I think me telling them why it's not going to work is one thing, but getting them to come to the right conclusion, say, oh, you want me to put out an article that's going to cost $5,000 for this magazine? Like, what are you trying to accomplish?
right.
What impact do you think it's going to have? And do you think it's going to bring in the 25 new marketing leads I need to bring in for this month? Or do you think we should spend that more on, let's say, an event or a B2, or like a let's say like Google Ads or something that would might get us better
Right.
conversion. So I ask them the hard questions that they then have to answer, and having them figure that out the way that you have to work as a marketer when you're working with non-marketers, I think really helps, because it also, like, the next time they want to approach me, those are questions they're going to start asking themselves too.
I love it. That's and the art, I guess, is asking those questions in a way that doesn't seem like rhetorical or you're like, chastising or whatever, but it's a genuine, honest question. Because I would imagine if the logic and the rationale comes back in their answer, maybe it's more likely to find its way into the priority.
Oh, absolutely. I am always asking. So I run a monthly, what I call it the Marcom Mingle. Like, it's an all staff. I tell them what I have planned for the month for marketing, what's coming in. And I always open the floor for ideas, because I think you always have to have a beat on what's going on every level at the company. Otherwise, I'm failing as a marketer, because I'm also communication. So I have to be able to have a strong ability to understand what's going on in every department and some of their own friction points that they're seeing. So there's been great ideas that I have implemented from those open conversations.
What are some of the ways that you effectively sort of quiet the noises from out there in the world saying you got to be doing this, this, that, this, and the other, and knowing that, you only have X amount of time in the
Mhm.
day and you're one person. What do you do to kind of keep the mental game sharp and stay away from a place of overwhelm, I guess?
Yeah, I used to fall victim of trying to do what our competitors were doing. And I slowly realized something early on, that a lot of what they were doing were what I call smoke and mirrors. It was just like, it wasn't authentic. It was kind of like lies, I guess. I wouldn't like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
over exaggeration of what's going on. And I don't know if you know the numbers, like what's going on in the insuretech industry, but a lot of insuretechs that were like around 3 or 4 years ago are no longer around. And
Okay.
it's no coincidence that it's those insuretechs that were the smoke and mirrors, like had great marketing, spent so much money, making these amazing claims. But at the end of the day, they didn't understand their target demographic. They didn't understand the insurance world and the actual friction points they're facing and
Right.
how to solve those friction points. So I think, and you hear this a lot, and I'm going to say it, and I'm sorry, but it's
No,
true, coming
please.
from a place of authenticity always, and remembering your vision mission as a company and staying true to that.
So you're on that point. You're actively, you told me in our first chat, you're heavily embracing AI, but you're uh, very strict in sort of pulling back in certain areas and not using AI. Like, where are those areas and
Mhm.
why?
I'll answer the why first. So I was the first to embrace AI 2 years ago when like the original version of ChatGPT came out. I fell in love because a lot of what I do, Caleb, is content writing, and it takes up so much of my time writing white papers, blog posts, email drip campaigns, ebooks, like everything, scripting for videos. Uh, and so, yeah, I started training GPT, started using it for that and loving it. And then when you look at the data that's coming back, and you also look at so you look at the micro data, your own engagement data that's coming in from your channels, but then you look at the macro data in the industry in general, and you're seeing a huge fatigue from people. So I think the stats are recent, and I don't know who it was, maybe it was Harvard Business Review, said that 61% of consumers can identify AI generated content, and 80% of those don't trust it anymore. They find it inauthentic. And it can't be a coincidence. Like, come on, you're on LinkedIn all the time. when you see those long LinkedIn posts with those stupid little emojis, do you roll your eyes and be like,
Right,
oh, come on, not another long, ChatGPT
right,
post? And further to that, I want to bring in some behavioral psychology a little bit because that's also a bit of my background. But we at this time in 2025, we are the most disconnected we've ever been. And I think it's like 50% of people are disconnected. They feel alone and disconnected, and they want an emotional connection.
right.
And that is why we're seeing a lo-fi video coming back, like that idea of like getting stripping away the highly produced like marketing videos and just going back to basics, going back to like humor. That's another trend that we're going to start to see more is going back for brands using humor to connect on an emotional level with clients.
Yeah,
So that's what I'm trying to get away from AI doing the creative side and letting me do that. Let me have the space to be creative by taking away some of the other tasks that are like, do the research for me because that also takes up a lot of my time.
right.
Or, build me a framework that I can follow, but let me do the creation. Let
I
me
like
have
it.
that connection with people.
I like it. So with that, some may argue, I'm not sure who, but some may argue that it's a futile effort to build real, authentic community and relationship with a B2B, the B side of the market. Would you agree with that? Do you disagree? And if you disagree, which I think you do, how do you aim to build community and relationship in an industry like yours, with a buyer like yours?
I would say it's easier to do
Right?
that because business is relate like B2B is based, especially insurance, that's so traditional. Like it's still entrenched in a very traditional relationship building model. And I think, and I've had this discussion with some of our product teams, we can never, as an insurance industry, it's going to be very hard for us to go to a strict B2B SaaS marketing model because our target demographic, they're still like in their 40s to 50s, and they want face-to-face time with the CEO. They want face-to-face time with the authority figure and building relationships. So how do we do that? How do we build that? Well, we host Canada's only insuretech conference.
Right.
So our brand is known to educate and empower our target demographic, which is brokers. So we bring in other tech vendors. Heck, we bring in our own competitors
Yeah.
and we bring everybody together and work with the brokers to solve like these big issues that's holding back their growth and that's potentially going to cause them like force them to sell to big brokers or carriers.
Right.
So I think it's that idea that we're championing this channel because we were this channel and we strongly believe that, like at the end of the day brokers are better for customers, for insurance customers, because they're unbiased. They're not working for one insurance carrier.
Got
They're
it.
working for several different ones, trying to find the best coverage that's going to protect your financial interest.
Wow. So I'd imagine through some of those efforts, even with brokers that you aren't working with in terms of a client relationship, uh, they're often perhaps coming to you for education, inspiration, motivation, and going back to your point earlier about this sort of non-linear customer journey, there needs to be a lot of belief that that will yield
Mhm.
down the road, right? And have you seen that happening, these long tail efforts?
Absolutely. And I think so. One of the biggest driving forces, so there's two theories that I'm really working at like implementing at Trufla. And obviously social proof, whether like I know people say it a lot, but it's heavily entrenched in behavioral sciences and this idea that we have herd mentality. So we follow what other people are liking. It's just natural for us. We have a very heuristic way of thinking.
Yep.
And so for me, showcasing testimonials, case studies, we're starting a serialized podcast where we're following stories of people who've actually, like from beginning to end, who've actually implemented this technology into their brokerage. And we're showing the honest side of it too. Like we're not painting it as all roses and chocolate because digital adoption, especially in a very traditional workplace setting, is tough. There's going to be setbacks, there's going to be tricky things, but at the end of the day, your KPIs, like that top line growth is going to be there and your increase in revenue because you're using less resources to service your clients. It's, we have the research, we have it. So just showing that and telling, I guess it comes back to telling a compelling story,
Yeah. I love it.
right? So
I can tell you told me once upon a time that you're a marketing nerd, and I believe you.
You
And
know
that,
what?
and
It
that's
takes
a compliment.
when I first meet people and they're like, "Oh, you said you were a nerd. I don't get it." Within 10 minutes, they're like, "You're kind of a nerd." I'm like, "Yeah, I was born a nerd and I
Power,
remain it. It
yeah,
is what it is."
power to the nerds. I love it. Uh, Tanya, like, what would you be comfortable in sharing as what you would consider to be your superpower as a marketing leader? Something that you go back to time and time again because you know it's just ingrained into your approach, or maybe others in your organization might say, "Dang, this is her superpower."
I think it'll be different for different people, in different areas. I think a big one is I'm agile.
Okay,
So when you're trying to innovate and disrupt an industry, you have to try different marketing theories because it can be a very difficult thing to crack
yeah,
when there's a lot of uncertainty surrounding certain technology.
right,
So you have to shift. So there's that. And then I think the biggest one that has been ingrained in me since early childhood, maybe it's because I'm like a first generation Canadian and my parents sacrificed a lot to be here, but it's that grit. I even when things get grim and like you don't know why you're even in your seat doing this anymore, I don't give up. Like I can be pretty relentless and I think that's that yeah, you know what, Caleb, it's resilience. Like I'm
yeah.
shocked sometimes at how I'm still here.
I love it. Yeah,
Yeah.
there is certainly something to be said about being able to claim for yourself that you may outsmart me today, but you're never going to outwork me. And it's
Yeah.
so that's awesome. And on the agility side, how have you been able to strike the balance between, being innovative and testing things and agile, but not slipping into that really dangerous zone of being guilty of random acts of marketing? Just we're going to try a million different things. And how do you toe that line?
The only reason I can toe that line is because I did that.
Okay.
And it failed. So I'm coming from a place of failure early on in my career where I just wanted to try everything and all things and didn't have a real strategy.
Sure.
And I hate saying failure because it's not really failure when it propagates the ability to be so much better at what you do. Like these are early on career learnings that I think are so essential for it's hard learnings, it's uncomfortable, but it's so essential to get to where you are. And that is have a marketing strategy. Have a strategy to follow and give it time to work. I think sometimes we tend to shift too quickly before we give things a chance to work out, especially when you're looking at brand awareness and building brand currency. That takes time and sometimes and consistency. And sometimes, like, say, for instance, like launching a podcast. Caleb, launching this is a great example of
Yeah.
staying consistent. You see a lot in the industry, and you've probably seen it when you launch a podcast, it's a lot of work and you're just not seeing it. Like, you're not seeing those views, viewership rise. And so, after 6 episodes, you give up. But you and I both know it takes several seasons and maybe 50 episodes to really build a brand or build a viewership that works.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
I hear you. And I've always subscribed to the idea. It's unpopular opinion, but I believe goals are for losers because and bear with me, hear me out. Like you set a goal arbitrarily down the
Mhm.
road, and every day that you haven't hit that goal, by definition, you're a loser. So what if instead you just set direction and you committed to the adherence to long-term strategy, and then the results kind of end up where they are. So anyways,
I
I
like that. I'm gonna
digress.
use that.
Yeah.
I'm
Older.
gonna put that.
But here's a very real problem that I think a lot of marketing leaders in your similar situation find themselves in. Build a strategy, and you want to adhere to sort of the long-term implementation of it. But what
Mhm.
happens when CEO or CFO comes in, says, I need results, I need attribution, we don't have time, competitors are coming. What might you be able to share in terms of being able to effectively adhere to and defend against these strategies that take time when the pressures are mounting from all angles internally?
I've been there. I think I have an example of that. So I wasn't originally the marketing person for Trufla. I just kind of like managed some of the the projects, but I didn't lead the strategy.
Okay.
And in 2020, just before the pandemic, the person in charge of marketing all of a sudden quit. I was actually in Cairo, Egypt at the time with the Trufla team meeting our Cairo team. Barely made it back in Canada before everything shut down, by the way. And
Oh,
then our marketing
geez.
person left. And so um, I had a real opportunity to kind of redefine what we're trying to do in our marketing. And I knew that at that time, believe it or not, Caleb, we didn't really have functioning products. Like we did, but we decided we needed to rebuild some of the code. So we had to do a stop on selling,
Yeah.
which is crazy. Imagine having a SaaS company that you can't sell. Like, how do you keep it alive?
Yeah.
And so I looked, and I know the team very well. I've worked with them for years, and I realized something that we have that a lot of insuretechs don't have are experts, like real life experts, insurance experts who've lived through and have grown their business and they know it works. So I started selling thought leadership.
Hmm.
So doing webinars, we did our first virtual conference in 2020, which led to our Amplify conference that we still do, and it's now 2025. Selling like ebooks and even just like we did like consultations. We even became part. I don't know if you know this program, the Canada Digital Adoption Program that's
Right.
now closed. So we did that as well. And that was twofold. It takes time to build thought leadership. Like I think we had a following of maybe 1,500 people on LinkedIn when we took over, and we're now almost at 17,000. It took a lot of time, and I remember the CEO and several people coming up to me like, "You're spending a lot of research on organic content. Like you're spending a lot on organic and brand and content. Like, shouldn't we be doing more with ads?" And I was like, "But we don't have working products. So where are these ads going to take us? So why don't we sell our expertise, our thought leadership, build that trust? And then once we have like a real tangible product that we know we can implement and it's smooth, we start doing more of the like traditional advertising." And so the thing about building a brand, and anybody will tell you this, you cannot attribute dollar for dollar when you're building. You can kind of get a sense of it. There's where you can attribute it, but it's never going to be 100%. What does end up happening and where you can say, ha, it's working, is when that sales funnel, it's easier to make the sale when people trust you and know who you are.
Right. Yeah.
And I think even in the last 2 years, there's been a shift where people are like, yeah, of course we know TrueFlow. We love TrueFlow. We've never talked to them before in our lives, but
Yeah.
they know who we are through our thought leadership. And so sometimes you just have to be like, I cannot show you the data right now, but it's
Right.
there. It's there. You have to trust me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with that too, I think that speaks to why it's so critically important to have a really healthy marriage and relationship with the sales function as well. Because if you don't have those feedback loops and you're not able to extract the ROI at that stage of the game, then you may never be able to define it, right?
Right. And I do believe wholeheartedly. And it's so funny because you meet different people in their school of thoughts when it comes to the relationship between sales and marketing. I was a salesperson, like through and through. I used to be like, I didn't love it because I'm shy, like in general. I know it doesn't seem that way, but I am. But I work so closely with sales. Like we are a team, we work together. And I think you have to. Like sales has to inform marketing, marketing, it has to be that 360 feedback loop.
Totally.
Yeah.
We talked about your superpower. What would you consider to be your Achilles heel or weak point as a marketing leader? Putting you on the spot.
Oh gosh, I have to pick one. I have a lot of weaknesses, but and I say that like in all honesty because I don't have it figured out. And when I do think I have it figured out, things change.
Right.
I think my biggest weakness, honestly, is gosh, this is a tough question. Pick one. I don't know if I am the best at delegating
Okay.
yet. And so when you're in marketing, and that comes down to spending more time mentoring people and knowledge transferring, especially insurance industry knowledge. That is where I'm weakest. And I think it's because it's the hardest. Like
Right.
trying, because I don't think that you can successfully sell insurtech SaaS products unless you really understand the industry. And where I find I failed in the past in with my marketing team is not spending enough time. Like I'll train them on the product, but not spending enough time training them firsthand the industry issues, why it matters. And I think training your team and really understanding your end user, your clients, and what drives them, what drives their emotional decisions, I think is crucial. And
Right.
that is something I want to be better at.
Well, I don't think humility is a weakness of yours. So that's, you said I can't pick one. Um, I hear you, and I agree. So, there's a lot of different things I want to ask you. I want you to leave us with this though. For what words of advice or tips might you give other marketing leaders that find themselves in this situation where, maybe there's a team coming in the future or the resources coming, but how do you make best use of today when it's lean, it's just you, and not fall victim to sort of well, I'm throwing my hands up in the air, I can't get these things done. It's just you're going to get less results from me.
Yeah, I think it's just honestly, it's just stay focused and ignore the noise. I think sometimes we are our worst enemy because I don't know. I feel deeply that marketers suffer from severe imposter syndrome. And I'll
Yeah.
tell you why. Because you get a lot of marketing thought leaders who are like, this is how you have to do it. This is the only way it's going to do it to generate leads, and you
Yeah.
have to follow my way. And we both know that's not the case. Like, it's different for everyone. What works for one marketer is not going to work for the other. And I think just and also leading on your frontline staff. Like I have people contributing for me right now because it's just me. So like for B2B, a big one is webinars. Like, can you run this webinar so I can have lead gen coming in from your expertise on this? Or do you mind like just giving me like bullet points on
Right.
this topic of ebook where I need your expertise? Just give me the bullet points. I'll interview you. I'll record the transcript and like turn it into an ebook. But leaning on your frontline staff, leaning on your team members, even if they're not in marketing, they want to help you. At
Yeah.
the end of the day, everybody wants to help you.
I think you could write the book on how to run a marketing function as a single person. And I really appreciate your enthusiasm and positivity around it because not everyone is taking that positive approach to it. It's always victim based conversation.
I
So
mean, do I have days where I'm eating dark chocolate, drinking my coffee, and thinking, why God, why is this my life?
yeah,
Yeah, of course I do. I have those down days, and sometimes they're down weeks. But like, I think overall, marketing is hard. It is tough. It's grueling. You could work 12-hour days one day. But at the same time, no day looks the same. And I think that's why it really attracts creative thinkers because you just don't get bored. It's not like a mundane task after task after task. You can be super creative all the time.
yeah,
And I think that's kind of what I remind myself. Like there's no other like career out there for me where I can be as hyper creative as I am right now.
I love it. Thank you very much, Tanya, for giving us a small peek behind the curtain on how you're playing this game. I like the way you're playing it, and everyone, my guest, Tanya Coburn.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It was great to be here.